Hello friends, Jill here. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. I'm out in my greenhouse where it is nice and toasty. It is chilly today and I have found myself just spending so much time in this space. One, because it's warm, and two, it's just, I love this space. I feel like I've got all these lovely spaces like with the office now and the greenhouse where I can just come to in the dead of winter and feel extremely rejuvenated. So it's making me feel really good. The video I'm going to talk to you guys about today is selling plant starts for profit. I've been asked to put out this content for quite some time now. It's going to be kind of a long, structured, just information overload, but I really feel like now's the time to get this information out to you guys, especially if you're planning or wanting to sell starts for the spring and summer garden. So I encourage you guys, grab your cup of coffee, your notepad, and your pen. This is definitely going to be one of those videos you just want to take notes on, tweak, figure out what works best for you guys. But let's get started. So a little backstory for those of you who may be new to our channel. I do a plant sale every single year with a lot of local farmers. It is put on by Belle Urban Farm. She's in Conway, Arkansas, an urban farmer, and she does a lot for our community. And so a bunch of us farmers from surrounding counties, we come in on a certain day. It is a one-day event, and we offer plant starts of various sizes and varieties. And it's just a really good way, one, to connect with our community, which was why I started doing it to begin with. When I first started the plant sale the first year, I grew just your basic generic things that everyone else was growing. I didn't really think about how to offer something that someone else wasn't offering. I was really just like super nervous. My plants were in the right size pots. I didn't grow varieties that were appealing to people, and overall I did well as far as a profit income. I made several $100s. I made, more than what I had in it and then some. So that aspect was really good. But as years went on and I started really honing in on what I could do to stand out, I've really figured out, I feel like, how to get the most out of a plant sale and how to make it the most profitable. And now I can say that the plant sale is one of the things that we do that we get a huge lump sum. We do really well at the plant sales, and I think a lot of that is the thought that goes behind how and why, what varieties I grow, and some other extra steps that I take. And I really encourage you, if you just start seeds, more than likely you'll be able to sell them. I don't want you to feel discouraged at all if you only have certain seeds on hand and you're not really sure, if this is something you're going to want to continue to do or your farm's going to want to always offer. I totally am a yes man, and I'm for just trying it out. However, if you are a farm and you're looking for making a certain amount of money at the beginning of the spring to kind of help some of those expenses in the summer and stuff, I really would encourage you to jot down these ideas and these things that I'm going to tell you guys today, because I really think you'll find out that this can be a huge profitable aspect of your farm. Now, I will always do the plant sale as long as I'm in a place that we can do that, because for me, that is a chance for me to get face to face with our community members who are supporting us, who are buying our produce, who are watching our YouTube channels and staying engaged in our farm. And so for me, I like that interaction. Last year we had to do it all virtual, which was a bit different, but we put everything we had online, and then we kind of had a system where everyone came and their plants that they ordered were all alphabetical in the front of the farm, and they just picked them up. And so there are ways, if we're not able to do them in person, you can offer these virtually. If you have a website, you can list these things, or if you have a Shopify or a Facebook Marketplace. So I know that you may have to get creative in how you're selling them. Your farmer's market more than likely will let you sell them, but don't be discouraged. If you're not able to do a plant sale face to face, there's still value in doing it. Figure out what online market is going to work best for you and target your audience so you're looking for best, and then just kind of hone in on that. So the first thing I want you to think about is how you're selling. So, have you rallied with other farmers and you're selling at a plant sale? Are you selling at a farmer's market? Are you listing on Facebook Marketplace? I think that should be the first area that you figure out is your platform that you're going to be offering your plants to, because if you figure that out, that will kind of determine the next steps. So let's say, for instance, you were selling at a farmer's market and you're already signed up for a farmer's market. You're going to offer your plant starts. I think that's a great thing. But the issue that you find a lot of times at the farmer's market is that everyone's offering the same thing in a roundabout way. A lot of people have the same vegetables. It's just, do you know this farmer over that farmer? Is their price a little under the other person's price? But you're offering a large variety of the same things. So I want to encourage you and challenge you, if a farmer's market is your area, think outside the box. And that's really what we're going to dive into. And that was one of those mistakes I made early on in my first year of selling plant starts. I sold plant starts that everyone else was selling. People didn't know me. They didn't know my name. They didn't have a reason to buy from me versus the other farmer that they've made a connection with. And so I realized really quickly, oh, I need to offer a variety that they can't find somewhere else. And so let's kind of jump into that a bit more. I'm going to encourage you guys, get your seed catalogs out. I have got several seed catalogs here, and this is one of the first things I do when I figure out what I'm going to be starting to sell for plant starts. Now, I would love to grow lots of things in here, but I know that a tropical plant, something that thrives well in that tropical atmosphere, is not going to work well for me in Arkansas. I'm in zone 7B. So I'm not going to grow that, even though it may be cool. I don't want to grow something and sell it to someone knowing that it's probably not going to do well in this environment. They're not going to have a good experience with the plant, not because anything they did, because the environment and atmosphere was wrong. Then they have a bad experience with me. They say, oh, I bought all her tomato plants, or I bought all her beans that just, you know, were tropical, or a flower, or a fruit, or whatever it may be. I don't want them to have a negative experience with me when they think about my plant starts. So I am going to pick things that thrive in our environment, that do well in the Arkansas humidity, that I have grown, that I know are going to do well. That way, when I offer a product to my consumer, I know that they're going to be happy with it. I know that it's going to do well. And you also have to think that people who are buying plant starts, more than likely, you will have your seasoned gardeners and things like that, but most of the people who grow in abundance, they're starting from seeds because it makes more sense, right? It's cheaper. They can get more bang for their buck. They're experienced. They probably have everything on hand to start their own seeds. So more than likely, the target that's going to come to the farmer's market and buy something from you or a plant sale is a new gardener, someone who's going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy it. And so I try to keep that in mind. I try to not offer super over-the-top things that are complicated, that the care is really complicated. Pretty straightforward, but changing up the variety. So once you have figured out what grows well in your climate and you're kind of jotting down what you're going to offer your consumer, this is where I encourage you to think outside the box within reason. So for instance, flowers. So at the plant sale that I grow at, it is kind of in the downtown community. You know, Kim sells a lot of flowers. She buys a lot of flowers. A lot of people are coming, are college students, young adults who are growing on their patios, or they want pretty flowers that they can just grow outside in containers. And so I know my audience because I have, you know, sold to this audience. Herbs do really well and stuff like that. So this year, I'm going to be honing in on flowers more, and I'm going to grow things that I think are unique and will appeal to people. For instance, I've got this white marigold. Now, they can go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a box store nursery, and they can buy your typical French marigold. That's more than likely the only type of marigold in my area that if you go to a store, you're going to be able to buy. So thinking, oh, I want to be able to offer something different that they can't just go somewhere else and buy, I'm going to throw in these white marigolds. I've got yellow marigolds. I'm going to do things that are different with my sunflowers. You know, instead of just growing your typical, you know, this is a sunflower, this is a dwarf one. So this one will do really good in a container. They can grow it on their patio. They don't have to have a big space. I'll offer in lots of different colors, you know, the multi-headed ones and things like that. So I'm just trying to think kind of one step ahead. Things that they're just not normally going to be able to go and buy. So we've got purple tomatillos. A lot of people ask about this. They have a hard time finding it. I also try to do one variety of each tomato as far as color. So, you know, I'll have your typical beefsteak slicer, but a Cherokee purple. For your, you know, dark smoky tomato, most people are going to go for a Cherokee purple. Most of the other farmers are going to be growing a Cherokee purple. So I'm going to go with a black from Tula. I'm going to go with a black creme. I'm going to do something that's a little bit different that they're still gonna, I can compare it to a Cherokee Purple. They know that that's what they're gonna get, but they're gonna be more intrigued to buy that variety from me because they've never heard of it versus a Cherokee Purple that every farmer, every box store is selling. Same with the white Tomasol. This is a white one, but it has a very smoky flavor, much like the Cherokee Purples do. It's actually really meaty. This is a really, really excellent tomato. And so as I'm telling them about that, and explaining to them, yes, this tastes very similar to that. If you're wanting that dark, rich, smoky flavor, this is a great tomato. However, it's white and it's unique and it's beautiful growing. That's going to spark an interest, just like it sparks an interest with us. So I encourage you guys to think about those things. When you're picking out varieties, figure out what's going to work well in your climate and your atmosphere. Figure out what they cannot find and source out from someone else. Now, the first year I took probably 30 different varieties of tomatoes and I learned really quick, that's overwhelming. That's too much. I was the only one that knew about each of those varieties. Nathan didn't. So he was constantly having to pull me just to explain the descriptions, how they grow, what they look like, what they taste like. And I realized, oh, okay, maybe less is more. So that's why I decided I would do a paste tomato, I would do a red slicer, a yellow slicer, you know, one that's a smoky flavor, offer range, but a very small range, and capitalize on what I know my audience and my consumer is going to want, which would be herbs and flowers and things that young adults can grow in a small space. So once you kind of figure that out, I think that just talking and asking your audience, you know, if you have an online platform, just sending out, hey, what would you like to see? What is something you would buy at a plant sale or a farmer's market? And really getting a feedback from the consumer directly is just going to make sure that you set yourself up for a really successful plant sale, making sure that this is profitable for you. And ultimately, when you're trying to run a profitable farm, there's going to be errors, you're going to have to figure things out, but you also don't want to waste your time doing something if it's not going to bring in profit for your farm, and then you've wasted your time and your energy and all those expenses. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. I mean, we were not a profitable farm for several years, and I had to figure out what to tweak, what to do, what's going to set me above the next person. Adding that diversity, I think, really helps, and being engaged in your community before you try to sell them something. You know, volunteering to help other farms, showing up at the farmers market to support other farmers, even if you're not selling. These are all things that I did for several years to get my face in front of the community. That way they knew me, they knew my farm, they knew what we stood for, and then they wanted to support me when opportunities came up like that. So I would just encourage you guys, get involved however you can. Ask other farmers. Kind of what we do at our plant sale is we all kind of set out a spreadsheet, and you type in what you're planning on growing, just to make sure that all of us are not growing a lot of the same things, adding the most diversity to our audience as we can. And I recommend that too. If you are the one wanting to host a plant sale, maybe at your farm or in your community, maybe limit the amount of people that can join. That way you're able to keep kind of tabs on it all. Ask them all to submit what they plan on growing. That way you know that you don't have 5 farmers all growing the same 5 tomatoes. Just try to make it as easy as it can be on you and the consumer. I always try to think of that too. If I'm the consumer and I'm going somewhere, I'm going to get kind of discouraged if I go to 5 different booths and they're all selling the same thing, and then I'm just left there kind of picking like, oh, well, do I have a better relationship with this person or that person, and trying to decide who to give my money to. You know, I mean, it's one of those things that it's really difficult. And so when you're offering diversity and you kind of have connected and talked to the other farmers that you're selling and you're partnering with, you're kind of just setting yourself up along with the other farmers to have a really successful plant sale. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be successful and my fellow farmer not be. And so by kind of figuring all that out, what we're growing, making sure that there's diversity, you're allowing everyone to succeed, and I really think that that's important. Once you have figured out what varieties you want to go, what audience it is that you're reaching, what platform you're doing your sell on, how you present your plant is huge. So at our plant sale, there are stipulations. You cannot start or sell your plants in a solo cup, which I know a lot of people do that if you're a home gardener, just for, you know, it's a cheaper expense. You can start everything in a red solo cup, and absolutely, that I've done that several years when I was beginning, so there's nothing wrong with that. However, there needs to be a level of professionalism. Someone needs to come to your booth or wherever you're set up, and they need to respect you, and they need to think, oh, they put a lot of thought into this, they look really professional, they look really clean as far as their presentation. That way you're inviting them to want to buy from you. And so I do think that as a business owner, especially running a farm, it's not your traditional business like a place you walk into, but making sure that you still have that level of professionalism, I have found really does help. So I get asked a lot, what do you sell your starts for? And so that's kind of what we're going to dive into, is the pricing. For our plant sale, the lady who owns the farm that we do it, she tells us what target that she wants them at. And that's based off of what she sells her plants for. So for instance, if she's selling tomatoes for $5 a pop and I'm only selling mine for $3, that doesn't really look good, because people are going to buy from me, not necessarily that my plant's better, but because it's cheaper. So we all try to keep all of our plants in the $4 and $5 range, just so that it's all equal. We're not trying to undercut another farmer or anything like that. And I would encourage you to don't sell yourself short. So when I first started the plant sale, I sold everything in these big, this is a 4.5 inch pot. I believe I sold mine in 4-inch pots for $3. Now, when you think about the soil, when you think about, what the pot cost and everything like that, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was scared. I didn't think that my product was worth charging $5 for. So I had to change my mindset. I had to shift. I had to go to the Lowe's and the nursery and the box store that was selling plant starts and figure out what they were selling theirs for and realize why mine was worth paying more. I recommend that. Spend time. Anytime you're going to, a box store or a nursery, take pictures of their prices. Figure out if it's organic or not. That's another thing. We use all organic seeds for the most part. We use organic soil, so I'm able to charge more because I can state that these were all organic plant starts that they're going to be putting in their garden. Also, depending on your price mark will depend on the size pots you need. So these are 2.5 inch pots from Bootstrap Farmer. These are my good pots. I'm not going to sell these pots because these pots cost me a lot. So it doesn't make sense for me to buy these pots that are investment and then I get rid of them. I'm not going to get my money back on them. So for all of my, which I love these, I don't mind starting in them and up potting from them, but whatever's going out to the consumer, I'm going to get all of my pots from the Greenhouse Megastore. I'll link all this stuff below for you, but they have great bulk prices. I'm able to get like 500 pots at a time, which is what I do. I also have the crates that they stick in, and so I'm just able to stick each of these in there, take the entire tray, which makes it really nice for transportation. Now for these pots, depending on the size of my start, most of them go for $4 or $5. That's in my area. I know people who have paid $7 for a start in a 4.5 inch pot. So just be mindful of that depending on what size. For flowers, I always do a 6-pack. Try to think of what they can go and get somewhere else. You want to replicate that, but you want to offer diversity as far as varieties and things like that. So typically you're not going to a nursery and buying one marigold or one sunflower. You are buying those in a 6-pack, and so I try to replicate that as well. Same with any kales or lettuces that I offer. I do all of those in 6-packs, and I do them for like $5 a 6-pack. My tomatoes I all sell for $4 or $5. Now the fact that I'm offering a variety that they cannot get anywhere else also allows me to justify the price that I'm hitting at. So those are just things to keep in mind. Something else that I do, you do not have to do it at all, but I have found that it helps because one, as a business, you're wanting to advertise. So this is free advertising for me, for the community. And I get my logo. So let's see, can y'all see that well? So these are just our Whispering Willow Farm stickers. I buy these in a huge roll of 1,000. We have stickers that are like UV treated that can go on the back of a vehicle and things like that. I don't buy those because they're more expensive. So these are just, a cheap sticker. They're probably not gonna last in the sun for years and years like the other one, but that's totally fine. And what I do is I take these and I label the pots that I'm going to sell with them. So what was a really cheap pot? These pots come out extremely cheap when you're buying them in bulk like I do for the plant sale. I have added my logo. And now I have advertisement. Now, instead of just these setting up at my booth, someone immediately sees my logo. They immediately want to come over. They're gravitated towards it. And I found that it just helps me on an advertising standpoint. It also helps me stand out instead of just, these are kind of cheap, flimsy, you know, just your flimsy pots. Well, now I've kind of decorated up a little bit at a really low cost. Someone can take it if they don't remember, say they've never met me, they don't know our farm, they don't follow our farm. They can be like, oh, this is Whispering Willow's plant. They can tag me in that. They can share with their friends. And so it's just really, really nice for me. It's one of those simple, inexpensive things to do that I have found really kind of sets me apart and really has helped me in the previous plant sales. You can get various sizes of stickers if this is something that you're wanting to do. You have a logo. The Greenhouse Megastore has several different sizes. They have a size similar to this if this is what all the other farmers at your plant sale, or if you are the one hosting your plant sale and you're like, hey, let's just put them in 2.5 to 3.5 inch pots. You can make your stickers whatever size you want to make sure you fit. However, I have bought the wrong stickers before, the wrong size, so make sure you just measure that first. But you can see just by the side by side, this one's going to be more appealing to me and the consumer. And so that's something I always just try to encourage everyone. If you're doing this, put yourself as a consumer. What would grab your attention? We make sure that we have our banner up that has our big logo on it. It's how they can reach out and connect to us. We make sure we have business cards at our booth to where people can grab that and email us or reach out to us if they have any questions about the plants that they've bought. And I would personally recommend, this is just a personal recommendation. I don't think that this makes a huge difference, but for me, I feel good about it. I typically only sell things that I have started myself. That way I have a personal experience with it. You know, if I grow a white Thomasol tomato, I can tell them, well, personally, this is what it tasted like for me. Personally, I didn't have that, you know, many issues with blight issues or disease, or it was, you know, crack resistance or whatever it may be. I found though, when you have that personal experience with it, you know, let's just say lavender. I can't grow lavender to save my life, guys. I don't know what it is. I've tried and tried. I'm very unsuccessful. And so I could start lavender and sell it. And if someone asked me, hey, is this easy to take care of? I could give my personal opinion, be like, hey, I've actually tried to grow it for several years. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have a hard time with it, but maybe it'll work for you. That may turn someone off. Oh, you're a farmer and you're having a hard time growing this. Granted, it's probably just an error on my end. I'm sure there are things that I could do differently. But for the last 4 years, I've tried to grow lavender and I've been extremely unsuccessful. So I don't want to grow that and tell them, hey, this isn't really that easy of a plant for me to grow, but if you have no experience, you should be fine. I'm going to give someone a plant like rosemary that is pretty tried and true. Anyone can grow it. You can throw it in some soil. It thrives in a lot of different environments. It's easy. I want to tell someone that, hey, if you're a beginner, this is a great herb. You know, you can cook with it. It smells amazing. All of these other things. And so that's just something to always keep in mind. You want to portray a really good, honest opinion for your consumer. You also want to be relatable. You want to let them know, hey, if I can grow this and it's easy, you can grow it if you've never grown anything before. I also just really want to take a minute and encourage you guys, if this is something that's been on your heart, you've been really wanting to, you know, offer plant starts maybe as another income for your farm or just to get closer in community, I say do it. You're never going to regret getting to know people. You're never going to regret. In my opinion, I have found it is hard. Doing something new, especially for me, I know you guys may see me and I've got this bubbly personality, but doing new things is something that I struggle with. I oftentimes have a lot of lack in self-confidence. You know, just like, oh, is the product that I have going to be good enough? Are people going to receive it well? And I have found that doing opportunities like this, when they come up, like the plant sale, even though it was a little uncomfortable at first and it kind of took me out of my comfort zone, stretched me a little bit, I'm so glad I did it, because one, it made me believe in myself and my abilities much more. Hey, I can do this. My plants are worth buying. You know, I've got a great product to offer these guys. I've got a wonderful variety that I know is going to make them happy. And it made me feel good. It gave me confidence in my farm and my ability to grow things and sell to our community. So I really encourage you guys, if this is something you're thinking of, it may be a bit uncomfortable, but do it, because every year you do it, it'll get easier. Every year you do it, you'll find new ways to tweak it. You'll get feedback from your audience. You'll figure out what they want, and you can really just cater to your community's needs, which is really, really cool. And it's also a great opportunity to meet other farmers. If you've been in a place where you're wanting to connect with the farming community, and there's kind of been gaps, right? This year's been a little different. You haven't been able to make those connections. I think this is a really good opportunity for you maybe just to be able to do that. And so I just want to take a minute and encourage you guys and tell you, if you're thinking about this, you should totally do it. I 100% encourage you and rally behind you in this, because you're never going to know how it turns out. You're never going to know if you like it or you don't like it until you just try it. And you may love it. You may be someone who just participates in someone else's plant sale, and then in a few years decide, you know what, I want to be the one that hosts this. I want this to be at my farm. I want to offer different things. And I just feel like there's value in connecting with your community, and there's value in believing in yourself that you have something to offer, and what you have to offer is valuable. And so I want to encourage you guys today, jump in. Jump in head first and do it. It can be a pretty straightforward. You can get by doing it relatively cheap. I do recommend buying your pots and trays in bulk. That way there is the lowest amount of cost investment. And if you think about too, someone who is buying this, just like if they're going to a store and buying it, more than likely they're not keeping these anyways, right? They're going to probably throw them away. And so you don't want to have an expensive, bootstrap farmer tray that someone throws away and then you've lost a lot of money on. And then your seeds, I would encourage you to buy your seeds in bulk if you're able to and get a discount. Also jot down and figure out how many of each thing you want to grow before you actually start your seeds. That way that there's no waste. Or maybe if you're going to use them, in your home garden or something like that, that's fine. But before, I started way too many things. I had a lot left over, and a lot of it I either gave away or it went to the compost. And I realized, that probably wasn't the best method. So now I figure out, I just get my notepad and my pen. I write down what variety I'm going to grow. I write down how many of these I want to offer. If it's something I want at my farm too, I'll put, keep so many of these for us. And so it's just really good when you're doing something like this to have a structure. And you guys know I'm kind of an unorganized gal, but when it comes to the plant sale, structure is success. And so I would just recommend you guys have a clear streamline, a good idea of what you want, the market you want to hit to, and the price that you want to keep at. But I hope all this information was really helpful for you guys. Kind of just gave you some points to go off of if this is something that you've been looking into doing. But thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.